What is going on, everybody? I'm Jordan McKelly. That's Mitchell Balla. Today is February 2nd, and Mitch, we got a lot to get into. LeBron getting heckled at an Atlanta Hawks game to where an Instagram influencer had to get kicked out of the arena, and a lot of other stuff. And we're going to get into it quick. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. First episode of the month of February in 2021. Lots of balls to cover, Jordan. I mean, lots. And we can go any sport. And this is a big week for us. We have a lot to cover just entire week. And we got some special episodes coming out for our listeners and viewers. So I'm excited.
Me too. But Mitch, you know what time it is. It's our top four at 4. Top 4 at 4 today is top 4 favorite video games. Mitch, what are your top 4 favorite video games?
Well, Jordan, I am not the biggest video game guy. I mean, I was a gamer in middle school like every person was, but we're going to go with my top 4 video game series. At number 4 is Fortnite. It really rekindled my love for video games while I was in college. I think it did a lot for the gaming community as a whole.
Wow.
At number 3, it's got to be college football. And we're going to touch on why it has just entered into my list, even though it hasn't been out for over 7 years now. But college football, NCAA football, it's in the top 4. At number 2, Call of Duty. I mean, how do you not play Call of Duty with all your buddies? I suck at Call of Duty. Anybody listening or watching that's played Call of Duty with me will admit that I'm terrible. Give me an RPG and get out of the way. That's all I need. But Jordan, at number 1 for me is MLB The Show. And it's because I'm very, very good at it, and I'll beat anybody that wants it. Straight up. Like, that's why I'm good at the game. I'll beat you at it. I ran it in college, and I'll run it again.
Wow. Before the show, I didn't think you were good at anything, and now I think that you're good at one thing. I didn't realize that you were good at MLB The Show, Mitch.
Oh, I'm very good at MLB The Show.
Oh, well. Isn't that the baseball game I beat you in that I never play and I've never owned?
That's not true at all.
Okay. All right.
That's simply not true.
Okay. Whatever you say. My list is a little different than yours. Very different. I am a huge Halo, Gears of War fan, and college football fan, and Fortnite fan. Any of those could go 1 through 4. Fortnite, like you, brought back my love for video games. Until Fortnite, I hadn't really played any video games outside of college football. I actually went and bought a brand new Xbox 360 a couple months ago just so I could play the 2012 version with Mark Ingram on it because I love college football. And what an announcement today. College football's back, baby. Woo!
It is.
How
bad
is EA Sports hurting that they're going to bring back this college football game that they never should have let go in the first place? It was a highly successful game for them, and it was always my favorite sports game. I'm excited about that coming back. Halo 2 is probably going to be number 1, just because of how much I played that game. I used to run like 12 to 14-hour shifts every day. It was unbelievable.
You did.
And I was really good at that game. So, yeah.
You used to play that here.
I did.
Growing up.
I would play it anywhere I could, Mitch. Anywhere I could. Speaking of anywhere, in Atlanta last night, the Housewives of Atlanta went wild at the Lakers game. In the midst of the final seconds of this game, a Instagram influencer goes to help her husband out, who's getting heckled back by LeBron James, and ends up getting kicked out of the arena. Were you able to watch this video?
Oh, I, along with everybody else that has social media, was able to watch this video.
It was hard to watch. It was very hard to watch. How did she get tickets for this game? There's probably her first NBA game ever to watch. It's unbelievable.
Listen, if you come at the king, you best not miss. And unfortunately, he missed.
He wasn't going at her though.
No. I'm talking about the husband.
Oh, yeah.
If you come at the king, you best not miss. And as a good friend of the show and loyal listener, Brandon Ranky knows, I mean, Brandon was removed from the queue a few years ago when LeBron was there because He pissed off LeBron during warm-ups or shoot around. I don't know. We could have Brandon on for that story, but Jordan, LeBron usually gets what he wants, no matter where he's at. And LeBron didn't like those two sitting in the front row, or just him.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? They gone.
Mitch, have you ever heckled a professional athlete at a game? I'm sure you have.
What is this, amateur hour? Of course I've heckled professional athletes before. I can vividly remember sitting in Progressive Field. This is pre, 2015. This is back when tickets were like $10.
Jacobs Field, not Progressive Field. Jacobs
I'm
Field?
sorry, Jacob. It still is the Jake. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It's still the Jake. Against the Houston Astros, sitting on the third base line with Sam Summers. And you know what Sam and I can get into, Jordan. And Robbie Grossman was playing left field, and Sam and Noah Danke and I let that man have it. Just going at him the entire game, probably from the third inning on until he either got pulled. And Jordan, anything he did, we just heckled him for. If his shoe was untied, we started Googling his family, just heckled the man nonstop. But hey, he didn't really say anything, took it like a champ. And guess what? We didn't get thrown out. But I still vividly remember heckling. Robbie Grossman. I'm sorry. Robbie Grossman. Rex Grossman was the quarterback in the NFL. Robbie Grossman. And I'm sure Sam and Noah Danke remember that as well. And it was a joy. I'm sure I've heckled other people, sitting in the bleachers or right field at Indians games. But what about you? You remember any heckling you've done?
No, not in particular. I've gotten kicked out of events as an athlete, but I've never gotten kicked out as a spectator. I'm a great spectator. Maybe not a great athlete if I'm getting kicked out of. I was in a basketball league, and there were some very questionable calls. Very questionable calls. And at that point, I stopped playing basketball in high school and just ran full time. And I said, hey, if you're going to ref like that, I don't think I want to be in this league anymore. And they were like, all right, well, then you don't have to. And they just kicked me out of there. But, yeah, I've never gone after any athletes. In particular, that I can remember. No, not that I can remember. I mean, I'm sure I have, but...
Okay, when you got ejected, was it at least a church basketball league like me?
It was not a church basketball. Well, no, it was a church basketball league. It was a CYO league, yeah. It was a church basketball league. Wow.
So we had both been ejected in church basketball leagues? Because I've been ejected before.
I don't think I've ever done penance for that. Oh, man. I never.
Do you remember when I was ejected?
I did. I was coaching your basketball team when you were ejected.
The Seattle Supersonics, Jay Friends.
Yeah.
At NEO and North or Canal Fulton.
Yep.
Dribbling out the clock. We're beating that team from Massive by like 20, and I just dribble, and there's a 9-foot hoop out of bounds, and I'm looking at it and looking at the bench, and they're like, do it. Dribble out of bounds, and let me tell you, I cocked that sucker back, two-handed jam, threw it down, looked like an animal. The woman referee was having absolutely none of it, looked at me, threw me out of the game, and then the craziest part was she tried to get us to lose the game. She went up to the scores table and said, and they lose. And I remember the guy at the scores table just looked right at her and goes, you can't do that. Like, that's not how this works. And then I also found out when you get ejected, it means you have to leave the entire building. So I had to go wait outside for the last 30 seconds of that game.
But you have to find a new church.
I didn't go to that church to begin with, but hey.
Well, yeah, that's a good thing for you. Well done.
Seattle Supersonics were the greatest J Friends team, but that's neither here nor there. Back to LeBron James, Jordan. I don't know if you've seen the audio come out today about what he said to begin with, because if you've heard all the rumors, our mistress, I don't even know her name because she's so irrelevant, claims that LeBron called her a dumb bitch.
It's Julian Carlos.
Julian Carlos?
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. They have the audio from the game last night, and you can read lips. And LeBron, the only comment he said was calling her boyfriend, husband, sugar daddy a steroid head. That's it. So why is this woman accusing LeBron of calling her that? Which, by the way, if LeBron called me a bitch, I'd be honored. I would be honored to be called a bitch by LeBron James. I'd be honored if he called me anything. I don't know about you, but
I agree. I agree with you. To be acknowledged by LeBron James would be in itself a victory, right? Because you have either had to do something so great that he's acknowledging, like your like good Samaritanship, or you're either the shittiest person where he's like, hey, and he has to like sit you down and talk to you. Either way, like that's love. That's a blessing, really. And the way I'm looking at it, Mitch, not a whole lot to talk about in this other than he didn't say what he said, and I still don't understand how they're having fans in arenas yet, even though we have curfews at night. It makes no sense to me.
Well, you know those states down south can get a little wild. I don't think Florida has a curfew anymore, and I don't know what Georgia's like, but um, I mean, and have listened to Brian Windhorst before, and I heard him today before the show on the radio. He said the players miss fan interaction. He said, and when you have a packed stadium, you don't get to see what usually goes on between these players and fans. And we've seen it twice now. LeBron gets upset by a Cavs front office member a week ago, clapping because he missed a shot at the end of the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And then last night, and maybe she gave him a wrong look. I don't know. And LeBron got upset, and here we are. I'm sure that afterwards, LeBron was very gentle about it too. He had no hard feelings towards him at all. He was very mature, which is what you'd expect from someone that's been in the league for 18 years now. But this story has gotten blown way out of proportion. It has.
He was a little more mature than I thought he would be, because they went after him pretty hard. But I think, honestly, sometimes the way people look does make a difference. Like, he's looking at them thinking, like, really, right now, this is what you're doing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
he knows by looking at her what she's about. So it was probably just comical to him. But I feel like in the past, he overreacts big time to little things. He's really clutch in the big time, but sometimes the little things really piss LeBron off. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really surprised by it, honestly, that he thought it was that funny. Good for him. It means he's really enjoying playing still. He's not too uptight right now.
No, he's not uptight at all. And neither are the Lakers after dropping a few games. They lose their first game on the road last week. And listen, they don't care. We know exactly what's going to happen. And guess what? The Lakers lost at least 2 games in January, which is statistically LeBron James' worst month as a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because when he was in Cleveland, the Cavs always went in that little lull in January, and the media blew up like, oh, they're going to trade these guys. And the Lakers, they were undefeated before losing on the road, but not a hush, because I think everyone just knows what to expect in January now from LeBron James teams.
Yeah. I mean, they dropped that game against the Sixers by a point. They come back. The game that I was mostly disappointed with was the Detroit game. They lost to Detroit by 15 points, and it was a game at which they got really sloppy. And like, I get not going all out like every night in the NBA. There's 72 games this year. Regularly, there's 82. That's a lot of games, a lot of travel. I understand that. But that doesn't excuse sloppy basketball. You can play slower. You can play less minutes, but still not play that sloppy. And they came back the next night, played sloppy again, and they got lucky. They beat Boston by just a point. And so they could be on a 3-game losing streak right now. Well, they went back after that game and won another one, so they wouldn't necessarily, but that could have been 3 in a row. And they need to not get sloppy with how good Utah's playing and how good the Clippers are playing, because you do want home court against Utah. You definitely want home court against Utah.
Oh, absolutely.
If you can. Because by that point, I think they're going to let fans in the stands. So I think that's really important for them to start. Like, all these games matter, and they're deep enough that I don't want to hear that people are out or that some people weren't on tonight. Well, if they weren't on, find somebody else that's on. Like, you have so many people. Like, they don't get excuses.
So many weapons on the Lakers team, and we've touched on it before, and that's something we're probably going to continue to touch on the rest of the NBA season.
And I think that's why his teams typically are so bad in January is he never has to carry. Like, he's always had to carry such a big load. He doesn't have to carry a giant load right now in the regular season, right? So, like, in January, he's resting. So the Cavs were resting. Or the last year with the Heat were resting. You know what I mean? Like, so that excuse just isn't valid to me in this particular January, just because circumstance dictates how I feel about it. And he's in a different circumstance right now, completely different circumstance. But let's change directions here. Let's hop into some college basketball. The Ohio State Buckeyes, Mitch, are ranked 7th in the country. That's their highest ranking in a long time. It's really exciting For us, I mean, I'm just like 1.1 miles from St. John's Arena. So not St. John's anymore. What is it? Value City.
Value City.
Value City. So I'm right here. What do you think about college basketball right now? It seems like it's making a slight comeback right now. It's getting pretty exciting.
Oh, absolutely. And there was a lot of upsets this weekend, Jordan. We saw Alabama go down, Virginia go down. Oh, geez, why am I forgetting? Why am I blanking out? West Virginia goes down as well. And there's one more that I just can't think of. But basketball, I think, starting to gain a little more traction now just because the NFL is almost over. We have the Super Bowl this week. And after that, there's no more football until the draft in April. And I think you're going to see a lot more viewer ratings go up in college basketball because the NBA viewer ratings have been down. And there's different reasons for that. But I do think that the excitement, Mo said in the chat when we were doing this live a few weeks ago, said, college basketball isn't as fun this year. And you and I were talking about that off air. I think it has to do with the lack of atmosphere now. I mean, think about some of the places you'd see teams go into that would get upset, where now it's not a factor. Usually, I think back to 2012 when that loaded Kentucky team went into Indiana, an Assembly Hall, and you remember how crazy that environment was for them. It plays a factor, and now there's no fans, and these players are just out there playing for each other and with each other. And I think it's a bit of a turnoff for fans, unfortunately. I mean, for you and I, if you love college basketball, you're going to find your team, you're going to root for your team and watch. I really do think that come March in Indianapolis, when the NCAA tournament happens, I think you're going to see the numbers skyrocket off the chart. I'm not sure if there will be fans, but Jordan, I think we're in a great spot with college basketball right now because it is starting to get so interesting. Shout out to the Buckeyes.
Oh, absolutely. With that being said, Mitch, let's roll through our top 25. Let's get into this. Mitch, only 2 undefeated teams left, Gonzaga and Baylor. Who's the better number 1 right now?
Well, if you're going by the voting total, I mean, Gonzaga got 61 first place votes. And let's not forget, these 2 teams were supposed to play each other earlier this season, but it got canceled because of COVID. I always think Gonzaga is a very good basketball team. They've shown that over the past few years, regardless of their weak conference. There's a reason they've been in the national championship game or the Final Four, the Elite Eight. They are one of the strongest programs now in the country. They're number 1, in my opinion. Baylor's right there, but Jordan, Baylor plays Texas. Texas coming in at number 6. I believe they play tonight, if not tonight, this week. But I think the first 2 are correct. I think Michigan at 4 would be number 3 right now if their athletics were not on pause. They were on pause for that 2 weeks because of COVID. I don't find Villanova as good as other people. That's just my opinion. But when I'm looking down that list, Jordan, all I see are a bunch of real good Big Ten teams that are just going to continue to give each other losses, which ultimately may affect if a Big Ten team gets a number 1 seed come March. But Jordan, the Big Ten's loaded, and the rankings in the top 25 show that.
Yeah, and in particular, how about all of these games that Oklahoma's won lately? They've beaten Alabama, they've beaten Texas, they've beaten Kansas, they've beaten 3 teams in the top 10. That's unbelievable. They're playing really good basketball right now. Really good basketball.
And go ahead.
No, that's it.
I was going to say Florida is another team playing good basketball. They went into West Virginia and defeated Bob Huggins and the Mountaineers. So that's a team that's, kind of climbing right now. They're at 22 at 10-4. But Jordan, like I said, let's just look at this. Michigan at 4, Ohio State at 7, Iowa at 8, Illinois at 12.
Yep.
You venture down, Wisconsin at 19, Purdue at 24, and Jordan, I have the Big Ten standings ahead of us. And the top 5, those teams I just mentioned, are all separated by 2 games or less, with Michigan leading the way right now. This is going to be a crazy ending to the Big Ten, and the Big Ten tournament is going to be crazy. There's a very good argument, Jordan, for, I would even say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Big Ten teams to make the NCAA tournament. I mean, in my opinion, Nebraska has no shot. Winless in Big Ten play, 4-8, and then Michigan State. Ohio State just beat them. I don't know what's going on in East Lansing this year. Tom Izzo's on pace to miss the NCAA tournament for just the 2nd time in his coaching career at Michigan State. But I mean, listen, Northwestern, Ohio State's one of Ohio State's losses, if I'm not mistaken. That's a team that, they're 3-8 in the conference and 6-9 overall. But Jordan, that's a team that can beat anybody in the Big Ten. I mean, there's 12 teams in the Big Ten that can beat anybody any given night.
Yeah, I love seeing parity again. I mean, that's what it's done. I never thought that all of these one and dones would create parity in the NCAA how it has. Outside of a couple teams tanking, Mitch, college basketball has really never been better. The only problem is no fans can go into the arenas to watch the games. And so if you're watching on TV, the hype's not there. And the love for the game from all these student athletes, you can tell it's not quite the same. Because they get to play in front of your mom, dad, your best friends. Like it's much different. It's much different at that age. And so once we get that back, we might be like the environment for college basketball might be better than it ever has been. We just have to kind of weather the storm, and I think it's coming because the play's there. Now we just need to get into the arenas to watch it.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. The other thing, Jordan, is most of these broadcasters aren't in the arena either, and just that alone, like having to broadcast from your basement for a live sporting event, it can't be easy. And then you add in the factor that there is no fans or other talking points around the game. These broadcasters are really trying to dig deep and find storylines within a game when they might not be there. The best person to listen to, in my opinion, right now is Bill Walton, because that dude's tripping on acid, I think, every single game he does, and it's so enjoyable. But I mean, it's an all-around thing. Just no broadcasters in the stands, no fans in the stands, and I'm just hoping that come March, the NCAA will allow fans, or at least families, or give players, 6 tickets to get people in there. But we'll have to see. I mean, they might say only if you're vaccinated, and we don't know what's going to happen come then. But Jordan, there's a lot of good college basketball this week, specifically on Thursday with our Ohio State Buckeyes. And I want to touch on it now because I know come Thursday for episode 23, we're going to be talking a lot of Super Bowl. But Jordan, Ohio State travels to Iowa.
Yep.
They are literally separated by a half a game in the Big Ten. Ohio State 8-4 in the conference, Iowa 6-3. Both teams only one loss at home. So Ohio State travels there this Thursday, and then they come back to Columbus to face the Hawkeyes on February 28th, Jordan. And this is going to be a huge game. Iowa still has Garza, he will be a Wooden Award finalist, but Ohio State has EJ Liddell, who has come into his own this year and really been a force to be reckoned with in the Big Ten and in the country. I don't think he's getting enough national love like he should be. But then again, this Ohio State team is a team. Liddell might be their best player right now, but they play all together. I mean, they are having guys come off the bench like Michi Johnson, graduated high school early, and he's getting big time minutes for the Ohio State Buckeyes right now. So it's really cool to see if Ohio State can travel into Iowa and knock off the Hawkeyes, or if Garza will be too much for them.
Well, and they've won the last 6 out of 7 games. Buckeyes have been playing really well as of late. And so, when you're hot, anything can happen. Even if you're playing a great team at their place. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State went in there and got the win this week. Honestly, I'll take him in that game right now on this show right now. Kyle Young for the game winner.
Love it. From KY will have a game winner.
There it is.
KY's going to have a big game. Jordan, there is one thing I want to ask you, though, about with college basketball and staying in the Big Ten. Michigan, as we touched on, 2 weeks now has not played. They have missed, I believe, 4 games with this postponement. There are some people, and they're more than likely going to have to make up all those games somehow. Is that going to help the Wolverines, or is that going to hurt the Wolverines in the long run?
Oh, definitely hurt them. Definitely hurt them. I think they just keep getting better with experience. I mean, Juwan Howard is a great coach. I mean, I cannot believe how quick he got that thing rolling up there, especially after the presence they lost before he came in and took the reins. I'm trying to think of the coach's name right now, because he ended up being the Cleveland Cavaliers coach. Mitch, help me out.
John Beilein.
So, and John Beilein had been a steady force for them for over a decade. He was a really good college coach. So for Juwan Howard to come in and do what he's done, and up there, I'm actually happy for Michigan because their football team is so bad that, all you can do is just be happy for the fans up there, because when you have to watch your football team lose more games than they win, it has to be tough. It has to be real tough. Yeah. And I'm a Browns fan, so I know what that feels like.
We do
So,
know what it feels like.
I think it definitely hurts them. And I hate that, COVID actually hit them this time. I know that it kind of fake hit them by the Ohio State game, but it's really unfortunate for these student athletes that COVID keeps coming in and just disrupting all of their hard work. Because I know how hard I worked. You're a college athlete. I was a college athlete. So to work that hard, and then to be sidelined has to be really tough. So hopefully
especially
they're
on
able to
something you
go
can't
soon.
control.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
when you can't control it, that's when it's the most frustrating.
No doubt. So hopefully they get that turned around soon.
I sure hope so. Jordan, is there a team in college basketball that
Mm-hmm.
isn't getting enough attention that you think, if they stay on the pace they're currently on, that come March could be one of those teams that busts a lot of brackets? And I'm saying that with my fingers crossed because we didn't get to make a bracket last year. And I really love making a bracket, telling myself this is the perfect bracket, and then have it busted by the third game of the first day.
Yeah, Mitch. Here's the thing. I lied to you guys earlier. I lied, and I lied for this reason. I knew you would ask me that question. I said that there was only 2 teams in the country that had not lost a game. Well, I lied. There's 3, and that third team is Drake. Watch out for Drake. They're coming. They're coming hard. We're talking about a team that I really think they can win it all. And I'm just keep that in mind when you guys are filling out your brackets. That's all I'm going to say.
17-0, Drake Bulldogs. Jordan, do you even know what state they're in?
I don't, Mitch. I don't. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
You said it with such confidence. I just wasn't even going to question it. And I was like, I got to figure out if he knows where they're from. I mean, I don't know where they're from. But they are the third undefeated team in Division I basketball. So, hey, that's a great pick by you.
They're probably
the Drake Bulldogs.
They're somewhere in Wyoming. The bottom foot of Wyoming.
The bottom foot of Wyoming.
The bottom foot. What about you? What's the dark horse team? What's your dark horse team?
Creighton.
Creighton?
It's always Creighton. I like Creighton. I like those, they're only known for one sport type school. And, we had Wichita State a few years back, and now Creighton, Doug McDermott's dad is the head coach there, I believe, still.
That's the kind of school where your dad would coach you, right? Where the coach would have a son. Like, you'd only accept the head coaching job. Like, you're only there for 4 years as a coach because that's all your son can play for. And then they have to hire a new one. That's what I think.
Listen, I think they're 13-4, 15 in the rankings. There's going to be a team that we're not ready for. And I think it's just also because lack of, I'll say awareness on my part and probably others' parts of just not watching college basketball for the reasons we listed just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, if you don't have personal stake in these college basketball games, right, then they have to be really hard to watch. Like, it's easy for me to watch because, we have some guys. I mean, we have a guy who plays a lot of minutes who is a Canton, Ohio boy, like a Stark County boy. So it's, when we have stake in that, it's easy to watch. But if you weren't a huge college basketball fan prior to this season, yeah, it'd be really tough to watch. So,
and do you think the fact that Duke, North Carolina, and Kentucky aren't what they usually are is playing a factor in this as well?
Oh, absolutely. When those 3 names are synonymous with college basketball, like men's college basketball, like it's really hard to have the sport and have it at its peak when you don't have, some of those prestigious programs at their peak in the thick of things. With that being said, it's helped college basketball. I think college basketball is probably more watchable than it's ever been because you don't have those couple programs that are just tearing through everybody every game. Now, I will say that does make for some good storylines, but if you're talking about like everybody having a chance to win. Like, I think that's more fun. I think that's what we want in college football, right? We want more teams to have a chance to win. In college football, we see that there's like 6 teams. So it's kind of like the reverse. So we'll see. We'll see, Mitch.
I think we just need to get to March Madness, and the love for college basketball will return.
For sure. Once we get some fans back. Mitch, it's time for your afternoon headlines. Roll with it.
Oh, let's go. Jordan, let's start in the NBA, where, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, Woj, as people refer to him, the NBA and NBA Players Association are progressing towards an agreement on an all-star game for March 7th at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. Jordan, big deal or not?
Huge deal. I mean, anytime Mojo drops bombs, it's a huge deal.
Woj bomb. You're right. Jordan, will Colin Sexton be an all-star in that game?
I think he will. I said that last week on this show. I said Colin Sexton would be an all-star, and I said Andre Drummond would be an all-star. I'm going to stick by my take. In my word, I'm going to say he is.
Okay, speaking of Andre Drummond, there's a team interested in Andre Drummond. A team that has 3 all-stars already, and that is the Brooklyn Nets. And Jordan, we've been very critical of the Brooklyn Nets since they acquired James Harden. But let's go ahead and paint the picture for some people. Since the Nets have acquired James Harden from Houston, they're averaging 122.6, or their offensive rating is 122.6. It's the best in the NBA and would be the best of all time in the history of the NBA. But Jordan, their defensive rating, 119.9. We'll say 120 for the sake of our show. It's the worst in the NBA and would be the worst in NBA history. Surely this is going to bite the Nets in the ass, won't it?
Well, yeah. Did you watch the game the other night, Mitch? Of course it has. I mean, I'm going to go back to what I tweeted, and I'm going to refer back to this. As soon as they made that trade for Harden, I was like, if you've watched basketball at all, you have to know this is not going to work. It's not going to work at all. 2 of the guys are incredibly ball dominant. 2 of them don't even play defense. That's a problem because they don't have any other surrounding characters. So when 2 of your 3 all-stars in like elite players don't play one side of the basketball, they were up 5 points with 15 seconds left, 146 to 141. They let Bradley Beal go full court 3. They steal the inbound, and you let Russell Westbrook shoot a 3 and beat you. They blew it. Like, they've blown all these games at the end because they can't play defense when it matters. If you're giving up 146 points, you're going to lose. It's unbelievable. And I feel vindicated by their play, and I feel pretty good about it, Mitch. And you can see I'm not passionate about it at all. It's not a big deal.
Not at all. Not even a little bit?
Not even a little bit.
A little bit? Teeny bit?
Teeny bit.
No? Okay. Well, I have something that might make you a little more passionate or furious like it was for me. Jordan, the odds for the most improved player in the NBA were announced yesterday. Jaylen Brown coming in at the top of the list with 2-1 odds. Then I would agree he is one of the favorites to win most improved. But Jordan, out of the 15 plus names on there, Colin Sexton, not on the list. Some players on the list, though. Zion Williamson, Ja Morant, who is the reigning NBA Rookie of the Year, Tyler Hero, all names on that list that had great seasons last year. But if you look at the stats, Colin Sexton has made a leap bigger than most people on that list. Should Cavs fans and Colin Sexton be upset that he is not 1 on the list or 2 getting the recognition he deserves?
Not at all, because I mean, when it comes down to it, Colin Sexton's found a place for himself in this league, and that's awesome. Last year, we didn't know how good this guy could become, and he's taken a huge leap this year. Who cares about the dumb award? at the end of the day, you've made huge progress. You're here, and as a Cavs fan, we have a guy now. We have a guy we can start building around. We have a guy whose jersey we can buy because we know we're gonna have him for more than 1 or 2 years. I want to buy a jersey, and I want to be able to have it for more than 1 or 2 years. So I'm excited as a Cavs fan. I'm not upset that he didn't get some dumb award, and he shouldn't be upset. But he should use that as fuel to keep grinding and keep making those leaps and bounds. Keep getting after it.
I agree. I still think he should be on that list, though. But
of course. But it is what it is.
Switching balls. Let's switch balls now and go to the MLB, Jordan, where there's a little bit of disturbing news concerning former Indians pitching coach Mickey Callaway, former Mets head coach Mickey Callaway, and now current Los Angeles Angels pitching coach who has now been put on leave. A report coming out that Mickey Callaway has been accused by 5 women of lewd behavior, some of which were reporters, others in the clubhouse that worked for the team, of him during an interview forcing their head towards his crotch. Jordan, not a good look. Mickey Callaway has since denied all the allegations against him. Jordan,
that's a foul ball.
Foul balls.
That's a foul ball. Let me tell you what.
Couple foul balls, but Jordan, 2 things. One, if this is to be true, should Mickey Callaway be suspended and no longer be able to be employed by Major League Baseball? And 2, what the hell is going on with the New York Mets? Like, what are they doing over there in Queens?
I have no idea.
First, Jared Porter sending dick pics to reporters, and now Mickey Callaway's out here getting accused by 5 different women of lewd behavior. What on earth?
I think this one's a little worse. I think this one might be a little worse.
Oh, I would agree. Although Jared Porter, you're still out there in the who has bigger balls bracket, man. I really think the 60+ text messages without a response is the reason you're in there. But Jordan, back to that question. If he's found, that these allegations are true, should he never be employed by the MLB?
Yeah, I don't think that you should be really employed by anybody if you're forcing anybody's face towards your crotch. Yeah, that's disgusting behavior. We have mental institutions for people like that. What the hell's wrong with people? What's going on?
There's 7 billion people out there too.
I don't. Absurd. It's an absurd notion to say. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't either. But we will definitely keep all of you updated with the balls concerning Mickey Callaway and baseball, because we don't know what's going to happen. Jordan, a few left. Let's take it non-sports related. According to ABC News, a mayor from a city has called a Chick-fil-A manager for expertise to help with drive-through vaccine lines for COVID. Good idea?
Hold on. We're going to have hold on. I need to understand. Are you saying they're going to be giving the vaccine out of a Chick-fil-A while the Chick-fil-A is still under operation?
No, although that wouldn't be a bad idea, because who doesn't like Chick-fil-A and then you get vaccinated? But no, as you know, Chick-fil-A is known for their amazing and fast-paced service. That thing can be wrapped around 3 times around the building. You're still in and out within 15.
Yeah, for sure.
A mayor called a manager to see how they do it at that pace. So quick.
That's innovative thinking.
Right. That's a good idea if you ask me.
That's the Billy Bean of mayors.
Yes. Wow. Yes. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
2 more now, Jordan, and we'll go to the NFL, since we're going to be moving into the NFL now. And just a quick fact about Browns wide receiver Jarvis Landry.
Okay.
Jarvis Landry is the only player in NFL history with 70+ receptions in each of his first NFL seasons. Mr. Reliable is what I would say. And people want to get rid of him.
Who wants to get rid of him?
No, Browns Twitter.
Well, yeah, you don't. That's kind of like when people said we wanted to trade Baker the other day. I hadn't heard one person say that, so I don't understand where you guys come up with these rumors and stuff. Because I don't talk to any morons like this that say.
I don't talk to them either. They appear on my timeline somehow, and it's crazy. But Jordan, finally, COVID has struck the Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs have placed center Daniel Kilgore and wide receiver Demarcus Robinson on the reserve/COVID-19 list. Due to close contact, Jordan, And the Chiefs are already without one of their tackles. How big of a loss could this be for Kansas City if they are not able to get both these guys back before kickoff on Sunday?
Before I say anything, we're going to get into this in greater depth tomorrow. But it's huge. Losing your center for the Super Bowl, it's a huge thing to lose. The center to quarterback relationship is so important. So to lose that piece alone. But you guys got to remember, Patrick Mahomes messed up his big toe in the conference championship game against the Bills. So, if he's pressured a little more and they're able to get to him, that could be huge. So I think it's a big miss, especially if he's not as mobile as he should be because of his big toe, Mitch.
I agree. I completely agree. And right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are okay. Nothing has struck them, but it makes for an interesting point to keep your eye on up until kickoff on February 7th. And Jordan, those are today's half-hour headlines.
Mitch, thank you. Those were some solid headlines. We had some good ones.
Thank you.
All right. Very much. Last segment, guys. We're going to hop into the NFL. One of the best players that will be playing in Sunday's Super Bowl is inside linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Devin White. And he was snubbed for the Pro Bowl, Mitch. Are you surprised that Devin White was snubbed for the Pro Bowl? And that's all I got, really. Go ahead. That's it.
Yes and no. I think the Pro Bowl is a popularity vote, and ultimately doesn't really matter because all pro nominations and awards matter more to NFL Hall of Fame voters, as I've heard, listening over the past few weeks as we get ready for the NFL class to be announced this Saturday before the Super Bowl. But listen, Devin White is one of the best players in the Super Bowl this weekend. He is going to make some big plays on defense for Tampa Bay. And looking at the stats, Jordan, yes, that's where I have an issue with him not making the Pro Bowl with Bobby Wagner and Fred Warner making it over him, not even close to the sack numbers nor solo tackle numbers, Jordan. Devin White had a phenomenal year for Tampa Bay, but he was second team All-Pro. Can make the argument he should have been first team All-Pro as well. But Jordan, I think it is foul that he's not a Pro Bowler, but it's not the end of the world because he was an All-Pro second team.
Yeah, I honestly think that he will be the biggest factor in the entire Super Bowl. And I'm honestly picking him to win Super Bowl MVP. And we'll get into that tomorrow. I was very surprised. I hate that's not how the Pro Bowl should be voted on. Like, there should be some other factors in that, because for him to not be in the Pro Bowl, is a travesty. Like, everybody thinks the Pro Bowl anybody that's in the Pro Bowl, those are the best players, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're not, and that's
not the case.
We need to fix that. The All Pro and Pro Bowl should be synonymous. We shouldn't have to have these discrepancies. I don't like that at all. But
I completely agree, and the fact that you look at the Browns were rated by Pro Football Focus to have the best rushing offensive line and the best pass blocking offensive line, and only get one Pro Bowler in there. Yet 3 were all pros. So that just right there, it doesn't make sense. But that's why I'm not, if you're Devin White, if you're other players, and as a fan of the NFL, I'm not going to lose sleep. The Pro Bowl is probably, 1, wasn't played this year because of COVID, but 2, is probably the least entertaining or important all-star game there is out of all 4 major sports, and that includes hockey.
100%.
It has lost 100%. so much interest that I don't even care anymore. Yeah, it's cool. It's an award, and these players, get paid for it. I'm sure it's in their contract, but listen, Devin White, I'm sure would rather be playing for the Super Bowl rather than a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, no doubt. You know what we should have had for the Super Bowl this year? We should have went like Game of Thrones style and had Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Brown in the middle of the football field and just given them should have had them joust or something. Because think about both of these guys that were kicked off their teams for being just incredibly dysfunctional, right? That's why they basically got cast aside. That and Antonio Brown's behavior was a little aggressive. But not that bad quite yet when he was with Pittsburgh. It got way worse after he left Pittsburgh, right? So, but I find it really fascinating, and that's the storyline that I have for this Super Bowl, Mitch, is that these two guys that were cast away, Pittsburgh has the most devastating end to a season in recent memory that I can see, right? You get beat by the Cleveland Browns twice in 8 days, and you get knocked out of the playoffs. And your quarterback, your franchise quarterback that's been reliable for all those years, throws 3 interceptions in that game. And then 2 of those guys that you got kicked off your team that would really help their offense a lot right now are both in the Super Bowl. I find that really ironic. Also very funny.
I love to see it. You just love to see it, unless you're a Steelers fan.
Yeah, unless you're a Steelers fan. I'm having a hard time in public right now. Anytime I see anybody with any Browns gear on, I literally want to bark at them. Like, I get so hype. And every time I see Steelers fans in public, I will say this. It was about over a month ago, that I did see this guy at a construction site, Mitch, and I pulled down my window and I stopped beside him, and I had Brown stuff on. So I go Browns, and I just pulled off. I'm having a real hard time in public right now. I'm being a real dick right now.
That's okay. We're allowed to be.
I don't know what it's like to win. Like, I'm having a hard time.
Listen, it's new for most of us Browns fans. I don't know how to act either, but I also don't go out or get around as much as you, just strictly because I work from home. But I'm sure if I saw, people with Steelers gear, I'd give them a hard time. Although when I went to Walmart and saw people in Browns gear, I'm wearing Browns gear, someone looks at me and goes, "Go Browns." I'm like, "Go Browns." So it's amazing, man. I can finally wear my Browns gear with pride. And I mean, yeah, Steelers fans can still wear theirs with pride, but I mean, I wouldn't be too prideful about how your season ended after starting 11-0.
I just feel like a winner. Like,
I do too.
I feel like a winner. And you know who else feels like a winner? The Rams, Mitch, because they hauled in Matt Stafford from the Detroit Lions. Not only did the Detroit Lions get a new head coach who likes biting off kneecaps, that's what he said in his press conference, his debut press conference for the Lions, but they got Jared Goff in a whole lot of picks. The Detroit Lions
whole lot of picks.
While the Rams ended up with Matt Stafford. The Rams are in win now mode. Are the Rams on the cusp of being Super Bowl contenders, Mitch, after this move?
You have to say yes, I think, because this is a team that a few years ago, just 2 or 3 years removed from the Super Bowl, that had one of the most pathetic offensive showings in Super Bowl history. And really, you give credit to the New England defense, but Todd Gurley was held in check, and they made Jared Goff pass the ball, and he was exposed, Jordan. Jared Goff could not pass the ball in the Super Bowl. And in reality, the drop-off between him and Wolford this year wasn't a drop-off at all, considering they still won 2 games, one to get into the playoffs and one in the playoffs in Seattle. Listen, Jared Goff had a couple good years. He's I'll say average quarterback. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not a good quarterback. He's a former number 1 pick for a reason. He got his money possibly a little too early, and right now it has screwed over the Rams, and that's why they made this trade, Jordan. Listen, Jared Goff in 69 games, nice, by the way, has a 63% completion percentage and has over 18,000 passing yards, 107 touchdowns, and 55 interceptions. Not bad. But when you look at the Rams, their defense, one of the best, if not the best in the NFL, there's no denying that. They have the best defensive player. They have possibly the best corner in all of football. And they have some real threats on the outside and a young running back room. And ultimately, all you needed was a quarterback that won't turn the ball over and cost you games. And I think that's why the Rams went out and made this trade. How do you feel about it? Before I give you what I'm thinking about this trade, though, there's some thoughts I've had in the back of my head about why this trade happened. And by the way, both teams won this trade because the Rams are in win now mode, like you said, but the Lions not only got a quarterback that can stabilize them until they get what they want, if it's not Jared Goff, just got 3 picks, 2 first-round picks in return. So, I mean, both teams win the trade. Rams right now, Lions could down the road if they don't Detroit Lions it like they usually do.
So you're saying both teams win the trade, yet you did say that Wolford, while Jared Goff was out, there was no drop-off. Not only was there no drop-off, but they won to get into the playoffs. Then they won in the playoffs. That doesn't sound to me like the Lions won. Not only did, the Rams destroyed the Lions in this trade. Destroyed. They got rid of one of the worst contracts in football with Jared Goff. They never should have paid Jared Goff that money. And the Lions said, sure, we'll take this contract, this awful contract, and we'll send a much better guy over to you. Now, I understand that they were going to get rid of Matt Stafford, but they did not need to take somebody in that is considerably worse than Matt Stafford. They can't win with Matt Stafford. How are you going to win now with a below, I would say slightly below average quarterback? Slightly below average.
He has glimpses of being great.
Average at best. And average at best. But what a bad trade for the Detroit Lions. You get those picks, but how good are those picks going to be? They're not going to be franchise-changing picks. Not at all, because the Rams are going to give you poor picks because they're going to be a great football team. They are Super Bowl contenders. There's no doubt in my mind they are. They have arguably the best defense in football, and then one of the best offensive minds in football coaching, and then you have Matt Stafford. Oh my gosh, that team is poised, and what an awful trade for the Lions. Not only did they pick a coach who believes that he should put biting kneecaps into his first press release. What are you doing? But they made this boneheaded trade. So they went from Matt Patricia to guy who bites kneecaps,
Dan Campbell.
A much worse quarterback. Very poor decision for the Lions, and Sean McVay should be grinning from ear to ear. Oh, man. What does this mean for Deshaun Watson now, Mitch, now that Matt Stafford went for what he went for trade value-wise?
That's a really good question and something I wanted to bring up, Jordan, because I got to thinking, yes, the Rams gave up their picks. And yes, some people are like, oh, this is a haul for Detroit. And ultimately, I think Detroit will end up benefiting from those picks because they hired John Dorsey as a player evaluator, which that's John Dorsey's best attribute working in the NFL. If you go back and look at most of the players he's drafted, he's now in Detroit. So hopefully he doesn't screw it up. I don't think he will. Detroit should be happy. But Jordan, the Rams and the 49ers are in the same division, along with Seattle and Arizona. Seattle has their quarterback. Arizona has their quarterback, whether you agree how good he is or not. I'm not a Kyler Murray fan, but that's not here nor there. We know the rumors, and we know San Francisco wants to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. And you and I have both said, wow, if that team gets Deshaun Watson, that's a Super Bowl contending team. They are a great defensive team when healthy. They were riddled by injuries this year. They run the ball, and they have a great offensive-minded coach with Kyle Shanahan. Were the Rams playing chess, though? Did the Rams go get Matt Stafford because, one, he is cheaper with the contract? But now you saw what the Lions got in return for Matt Stafford. And there's no denying Deshaun Watson's the more talented quarterback. So did they just hike the price so high for Deshaun Watson that it has knocked the San Francisco 49ers out of contention for him? That's what I've been thinking. Did they not only get better, but now also eliminate a team in their division and in their conference from going to get a quarterback and upgrade their entire team?
What a take. That's a hell of a take. I think you may be right. I think they were playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers.
Yeah, I know how to play checkers, so that's why maybe the Rams did this because I'm over here playing checkers. But
yeah,
that's what I thought.
I was never thinking about the price being driven so high that they couldn't afford him after that. But I guess there really isn't. I mean, I don't think there really is a drop off from Matt Stafford to Deshaun Watson. I think they're very comparable. And one has a better contract, and then obviously whoever you were going to get second was going to go for more. Because the first person was going to set whatever the market value was for free agency was for the first quarterback out. So, yeah, great take. I bet you're right with that.
How do you feel about it, though? I mean, what do you think this does to Deshaun Watson now? And by the way, before I don't want to get too far ahead of the difference between Stafford and Watson is just the age. Stafford's at 32, has had some injuries.
Mm.
Watson at 25, but don't forget had a torn ACL a few years ago. So yeah, there's the 7/8 year age difference depending on when the
I would
birthdays
take
land.
Matt Stafford personally. Like if I'm in win now mode, if I'm picking a franchise, I'll take Deshaun. I think Deshaun has some growing up to do right now. I think Matt Stafford. I think people would rally behind Matt Stafford. I don't think they will at Deshaun Watson at this point, regardless of where he goes. And so, it's definitely the Rams made an incredible move by doing this, and they've done this in the past. They haven't been afraid to go big in free agency. I mean, they went out and got who? Jalen Ramsey, a shutdown cornerback. This is their MO. They're not afraid to go out and do whatever it takes to remain relevant, and they really just put one by Detroit. I mean, unbelievable week if you're a Rams fan, no doubt.
Absolutely. And they're in win now mode. That's why those draft picks that everyone's fantasizing, everybody sees first round draft pick and automatically just gushes for it. But Jordan, this team already made the playoffs. I'm not sure where they're picking this year, but they're obviously below the 18-19 mark. They're probably in the 20s. This team got better. So who's to say that they're not going to finish in the 25 to 32 mark next year? That first round pick isn't as significant as a first round pick from the Cincinnati Bengals or the Houston Texans, which Miami owns, or it's not as significant as that. What Detroit could do, though, is package those first round picks now to go up and get another top 5 pick. That's what they could do. But ultimately, we'll have to wait to see who wins the trade. Right now, in my opinion, no doubt about it, it is the Rams who won the trade. But listen, if Detroit turns those picks into something, we could be sitting here a few years down the road and seeing what happens. And let's not forget, Matt Stafford can opt out of his contract in 2 seasons. So he'll play 2021 and 2022 with the Rams, and we'll have to see what happens after that.
Yeah. Yeah. To just finish my answer, because I don't think I really told you what I thought would happen to Deshaun Watson. I stopped. I don't think he gets traded at this point. I don't think he gets traded at all. I think he's going to want to get traded, but he has 3 years on his contract. The reality of it is that he is going to be one of our Who Has Bigger Balls contestants today, because he has 3 years left for $40 million per year. Like, you're going to make $120 million over the next 3 years. You don't get to bitch and moan and complain and act like this and choose where you get to work. You're going to work at where you signed the contract to work at. That's what you're going to do. And I don't think he gets traded at this point. And honestly, I don't think his trade value is I don't think it should be as high as it is, but I don't think that they're going to be able to make a deal happen.
You're right. I mean, you said it the best. Win now mode, it's Matt Stafford, a guy who's been there, been in the league for so long. Jordan, we read his stats last week. Only 2 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL with 45,000 plus passing yards and 150 or less interceptions. Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford has had nothing to work with for the past 6 years, but poor coaches, minus Jim Caldwell, who was fired way too quickly, and guys that they're getting off the street in Detroit to play wide receiver. Kenny Golladay is the one exception who has just been hurt and riddled with injuries. But ever since Calvin Johnson retired abruptly, which ultimately you put that on the Detroit Lions organization, Matt Stafford has had no help signing Adrian Peterson in an already crowded running back room, which it's not the same Adrian Peterson of the jersey I'm wearing right now. Not the same MVP, not the same rushing title, Adrian Peterson. So the Lions failed him. And I think he's the best quarterback for win now. And if you're the New York Jets and you want to build a franchise, then yes, let's go get Deshaun Watson. But what is it going to cost you? Is it going to cost you 4 first-round picks? Because is it worth it then? Is 4 first-round picks worth it?
I don't know, Mitch. I don't think so. I don't think it is.
I don't either. And especially when you have the number 2 pick this year. If you don't want to get rid of that many picks, you can take whoever you want this year, or I don't know, deal it to somebody else for other pieces you need. It's just, there's so many question marks, and I won't be shocked now if Deshaun Watson is not traded.
it is incredibly hard to draft quarterbacks in this league. Nobody's a for sure thing. So, with that being said, I like picking other positions that I know that are going to be a pretty for sure thing, building around that, and then finding a veteran quarterback. I think that's kind of, I mean, it's what the Colts have right now. The Colts just need a quarterback. They have everything else, right? Because they built that. They finally built a team by the time Andrew Luck wanted to leave. And then
the thing about that, is, are the Texans really going to trade him in the division?
No.
That's I wouldn't. The only one that would make sense, like we said last week, was Jacksonville, because you get Trevor Lawrence in return, and you get to restart. Both sides win that trade in Jacksonville and Houston, but it's real interesting now. My opinion is it's either going to be the Jets, the Washington football team, or he's staying.
Yeah. I think he ends up staying at this point. I think that he'll come around and he'll play, because he's not going to miss games, miss camp.
I was going to ask if he would.
The fines are obscene. I think if every day of training camp he misses, I think it's $50,000. Like, some of his fines are just obscene fines. Like, he can't afford to miss it. He's not going to. Like, he'll show up to work. His situation will probably be very James Harden-esque, where he might play a couple games for the Texans this year. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Wouldn't be surprised if he finished the season, honest to God. So we'll see, Mitch. Do you want to tease this Super Bowl trailer before we go to our last segment?
Yeah, let's tease it a little bit. Let's get folks ready for what we're going to be doing in episode 23. We have a special guest coming in for episode 23 that actually knows 2 players in the Super Bowl, which is going to be fun to talk to him. But yeah, let's just tease it real quick before we cover it on Thursday.
Mitch, how's Tampa Bay going to react to all that speed Kansas City's putting on the field?
Jordan, we already saw how they reacted one time this year, and it led to Tyreek Hill having over 200 yards receiving in the first quarter. But Todd Bowles has had this defense ready to play. Their game so far, they made the necessary adjustments against the Saints. Mm-hmm. Yes, they were aided by turnovers, but they still made it count the way they had to. And they stepped up in Green Bay last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, excuse me. And ultimately, I think this defense is going to have something to prove. I know they're hoping Winfield's back in the secondary. We'll wait to see if he is back, but practicing the speed and going up against the actual speed is something completely different. And I'm not sure how they're going to do it. And maybe it's they take the conservative offensive approach and control the clock a little more, like we've seen some teams try to do.
I think they do, especially with that layoff. You got to remember it's a 2-week layoff, right? Man, at this stage of the game, I'd probably like to not have a layoff at all if I was playing the game, for sure. I would rather the game be the next week, personally. So I don't know how they're going to handle the speed at all. I still think right now that I'm leaning more towards Tampa, but that's because of the experience and confidence I have in Tom Brady. Him having 2 weeks to dissect and study film for this, man, that's a lot. And I understand that Andy Reid is almost invincible off a bye, and this is considered a bye, right? Mm-hmm. And I understand he's invincible, but Bruce Arians and Tom Brady together is as good as Andy Reid is by himself. And I honestly, I still like Tampa Bay right now. We're going to break down so much more tomorrow. Is there anything else you want to say before we hop into this?
I'm still leaning back and forth of who I want to take, but Jordan, there is one thing I'm thinking of, and we know how great of a leader Tom Brady is. We've seen the culture change in just 1 year. Mm-hmm. There's certain things you can't change and can't manipulate and practice. And that's actually playing in the Super Bowl, Jordan. I don't care what every athlete or person has been in a spot before where it's the first time doing something. You have those butterflies. Kansas City's been there now for a year and done that. Mm-hmm. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown, Antonio Brown, long time removed, but Godwin and Evans, this is brand new to them. The only thing that might help them is being at home, but this isn't a home crowd. The Super Bowl crowd is all these business owners and multimillionaires that go there for business trips. It's not like it's going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer crowd, but I think you have to keep your eye on if some of these in the first quarter, if some of these receivers and running backs have a little bit of the jitters and ultimately could put them in a little bit of a hole. That's just something I'm looking for.
I like it, Mitch. I like it. Well, guys, if you're still with us, which there's some of you guys still with us, make sure you're subscribing to our channel and liking this video down low. Make sure you're hitting the bell so you're getting our notifications. That way you're notified anytime we go live. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Let's get into our last segment of the show, my favorite segment.
Who has bigger balls?
Mitch, who has bigger balls? Is it Julian Carlos for going after LeBron James in Atlanta last night, acting like the real housewives of Atlanta? Or is it Deshaun Watson for just being a big-ass crybaby and not wanting to show up to work, even though he's getting paid $40 million a year to throw a leather ball to another guy in a company uniform?
It's Deshaun Watson. I have been on this not anti that Deshaun Watson is not good, but just the fact that I think his elite play and eliteness of a quarterback is blown way out of proportion, Jordan, and he is acting like the biggest crybaby right now. And I told you before, I've told other people before that want to argue with me on this. Deshaun Watson knew damn well what he was getting himself into when he signed the contract. Mm-hmm. Hopkins was already gone. The roster was already set. He signed the contract to stay in Houston. There's no reason now that he should just want out other than the fact that they went 4-12. And that's just me. Deshaun Watson, Jordan, for me, has bigger balls.
Mitch, I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to go Deshaun Watson because I have a hard time dealing with prima donnas when it comes to professional sports. You can be a prima donna if you're a high school athlete, middle school athlete, elementary school athlete, college athlete, little boys, little girls athletes. But if you're professional athletes and you're getting paid the big bucks, you don't get to complain like that in my eyes, because you are just leaps and bounds above the rest of us in terms of income, and you get to play a game. Even though it is a profession, it is still a game. It's Deshaun Watson. Guys, make sure you are... Oh, Mitch, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't see you.
I was going to say, we got to remind the people. We are in the final four of our Who Has Bigger Balls bracket for the month of January, guys. That voting is going to be open from now, when I'm telling you that, on Tuesday, February 2nd, until Wednesday, February 3rd at 11 a.m. And then we will have it tweeted out by noon, and we will announce who had the biggest balls in the month of January during episode 23 on Thursday. So make sure you get out there on our Twitter at CYB Live Show and vote on those polls if you want to have a say in who had the biggest balls.
Mitch, I love to hear it. Guys, make sure you subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, in particular on YouTube. Go ahead and like this, follow us, hit the bell. We love you guys. I'm Jordan McKelly.
I'm Mitch Balla.
Thank you. That's Mitch Balla. And we're covering your balls on Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. weekly. We're out of here.